Hello, guys. I am Shane Davis, Twitter comic book veteran, and I'm coming in here alone today to talk about Amazon buying up Spider-Man, buying up anything that they can get their mitts on from Sony Marvel. I know I want to talk about that a little bit. A lot of people maybe don't remember the history of how this ended up being where it is, why it's so complicated to have Spider-Man appear in a Marvel movie, and why Venom's off doing his own movie, and you get Morbius, and you get like hypothetically a Silver Sable. But before we get into it, please look down below, hit like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. I am not a big fan of the Spider-Verse. All these variations of Spider-Man. I am a true Peter Parker Spider-Man, maybe Ben Reilly. We can have some of that, sure, but I'm not a big fan of all the variants of Spider-Man. Actually, I think they kind of erode the character in a weird way. And I kind of blame Venom in a weird way, because I think Venom would have been like the very first kind of, I don't know, duplicate of Spider-Man in a weird way. But he was a bad guy, which historically, especially DC Comics, you see a lot of that. You get Superman, you get Bizarro. But see that, and I love Venom, but that kind of built this idea that you could just make another duplicate Spider-Man. They do the Spider-Verse. So it's, I was working at Marvel early on, probably like 20 some years ago, doing some Spider-Man one shots that were for all ages that would run through Target. And my editor at the time, John Barber, was working on a Spider-Man book that was made for India. Like, it was an Indian version of Spider-Man. They were taking Indian lore and putting into it and restructuring, what that would mean for things like Green Goblin and stuff like that. And it was a miniseries, and it's sitting there tacked on this wall, and I'm looking at it as I'm turning in pages and we're working on stuff. I would just walk up to the Marvel offices, and I'm like, "What's up with that book?" And he's like, "Oh, well, I hope it makes a lot of money." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. Like, it's not Peter Parker Spider-Man. You got a Spider-Man movie out. I mean, why would you make a version of Spider-Man that's Indian?" And I'll be honest, Marvel, the editor's response is, there's a lot of people in India. They're an overpopulated country. There's a lot of people per square mile. And I'm like, okay. He goes, but they're also very starving. But if we could get just a small percent of Indians in India to like Spider-Man, this book would make $1 bajillion. We all know it didn't. You probably don't even know the book I'm talking about. You can go Google it. But the character has made appearances in the Spider-Verse. And obviously Spider-Man is, in the 90s, was selling to the point where it was almost its own empire, imprint, whatever. There were two books that were selling the best, and that was the X-Men books and the Spider-Man books. X-Men, I think, was a little bit more good for the company because you could always make another X-Men team. Spider-Man, a little bit harder to do that with. But so today, let's take a trip. How are we here where Amazon's buying up like variants for TV shows? And the reality is basically Marvel ended up in a lot of revisionist history. They kind of forget this one big part of this, and that Marvel ended up in bankruptcy. And because they were in bankruptcy, they were basically selling off the rights to a lot of their properties. And you have to remember, Superman was a big movie, but like by the time they got up to Superman 3 in 1983, it wasn't a big movie. Actually, superhero films, kind of technology holding them back with the special effects and stuff, but they kind of lost their charm. And, there was the Hulk TV show and stuff. But Marvel actually had gotten the rights back because, certain companies like Canon and different companies had bought the rights but never did anything with it. And they got the rights back in 1999. And this was at a point when Marvel was kind of trying to get out of bankruptcy. And the technology, it just didn't seem like possible, really. And even if it was possible, would it even be successful? And Marvel basically sold off Spider-Man film rights for a what at the time probably looked like good money, but a measly $7 million deal. Now, Fox, on the other hand, was a company that had bought Fantastic Four and X-Men. Now, what happens with these properties when these companies buy these these rights is the rights usually include any character that fits up under the umbrella. Like, say, Deadpool was a Fox character, so they had the rights to that just by having the X-Men rights. Fantastic Four, you know, Fox would reboot and remake every other year just to keep those rights. And eventually what happened, we all know that Disney bought out Fox just to basically get all those rights back. Now, when somebody owns Fantastic Four, they don't just have Fantastic Four, they have Galactus, which obviously Marvel wanted that character and stuff like that. But you can end up where like people have two versions of the character, like the Quicksilver X-Men character, because Quicksilver is an X-Men, but you can also have the Avengers character that is Quicksilver because he was, again, you know, so this character's a murky character. All right. So anyways, follow me here. This is where it gets very complicated. Sony's not ever going to turn loose a Spider-Man. That's the deal. Like, they're just not. You know, they had wanted the Daily Bugle in the background of one of the Avengers films, and then that fell through, and then they brokered a deal. But if you'll notice what Sony does is they take all the other characters that are up under that Spider-Man umbrella, which would include, and I was talking to the producer of Venom at San Diego Comic-Con one year before Venom came out, but they had plans for a Morbius film, a Silver Sable film, a Black Cat film. And you're like, well, who are Silver Sable and stuff? All you need to know is it's another character that's up under the umbrella that's uniquely different than Spider-Man. And like, they're going to do a Kraven the Hunter film. Why? Because that's a Spider-Man character. Technically, they could make a Sinister Six film if they wanted. And this is really the problem with Spider-Man and him fitting in with the MCU. Now, back to the story of Amazon purchasing Silk. The interesting part in all of this to me is why Marvel even makes all these variant characters anymore, because every one of these variant characters they make, they don't have the rights to. They don't have the film rights to. Now, they might get a portion of the box office of these things. But this is interesting because what Sony's doing now is actually taking what they have as a license. Like, they have like the license for film for Spider-Man and any new character that Marvel makes that is a Spider-Man variant. And then now they're like sub-licensing it out to Amazon. See, Amazon's not even purchasing this character directly from Marvel now. They're basically, in a weird roundabout way, buying it from Sony, who bought it years ago, you know, and just won't relinquish the rights from Marvel at a point when Marvel desperately needed the money to because they filed for bankruptcy. That is a true thing. You can go look that up. And this is like kind of spectacular, pardon the pun. It's like, this is probably like historically one of the worst business deals done in media, and will probably be looked at. I have no confidence in any of these other Spider-Man things. I have no interest in watching them. I have no interest in, but I had zero interest in ever reading this character's comic. What's interesting is every one of these characters, and we've done a video on like a gay Spider-Man that Marvel rolled out and stuff for Spider-Verse. Every one of those characters can now be a TV show or a supporting character in a TV show. And in the end, when all of this stuff is out there in media, it will just delude Spider-Man, Peter Parker Spider-Man. This will actually take a toll on the character in the end. How could it not? How could it not? Because the quality control, even on these projects, has to vary going from one place to the other too. Like, there is no, like, maybe Sony's overlooking it. I remember I drew a cover one time. I want to end on this note. A Spider-Man cover at Marvel, and I had drawn like the raised webbing that's on his red suit with like a glare. And my editor's like, can you black out the glares? Like, and I'm like, why? It looks cool, like in the Sony movie. And he said, that's exactly why. Sony has the rights. Marvel can't reproduce Spider-Man's webbing raised from his red suit that catches light. Like, that's a Sony thing. And Sony makes money with that. And, you know, we can't, basically they were saying your artwork, we could never put on a beach ball or anything like that. I doubt Sony would really care about the comic, but there are these weird legalities with these characters now that are divided up and how you can use them and how you can execute them. So anyways, I thought this was interesting. If you guys will look down below, hit like, subscribe, ring the bell for notification. Let me know what your thoughts are on the future of Spider-Man. And Inglorious Rex is almost at $136,000, guys. Now is the time to get in there. 12 days left, 1,226 backers. This is a book about monsters punching one another, MMA. We follow Alex Stone as he is a new pilot of Inglorious Rex 232, and he's now the protector of the city. If you guys will, look down below. You'll see a link for this campaign. Please click on it, give it a look, see what you think, and I will catch you guys again with another video.
Let out the beast. Let him out.